Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. And we have a special guest on our show. This is somebody that I just met through a friend, but I love what they're doing. So, David, with for our community that don't know anything about what you do, would you tell them who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Sure. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me today. Uh,
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you through a mutual friend. So my name is David Aschenbach, and I recently retired from IBM after nearly 38 years in sales and sales leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm one of those dinosaurs that finally took the retirement package,
Yes.
and I joined an outfit, a nonprofit out of Atlanta, actually Marietta, called Kids to Leaders. And I had been a volunteer for upwards of 12 years with
Mm-hmm.
Kids to Leaders prior to joining their staff earlier this year.
That is awesome. I remember when two people came back from your Camp Hope, I think it's called,
Hmm.
and they just they well, one has been going for quite a bit, Katrina, and but Alan had not been, and it literally just, I mean, it really hit his heart, and he just couldn't say enough about it. So, why did you get involved with them 10, 12 years ago?
Sure. So, actually, a coworker who was the executive director at the time,
Mm-hmm.
she and I worked at IBM, and we would travel up to Dalton, Georgia, to meet with a large carpet manufacturer in Dalton. So we had
Mm-hmm.
about an hour and a half of windshield time. So we'd meet at the Cracker Barrel there off by Kennesaw State, and we'd carpool up. And she invited me to a brunch that Kids to Leaders was having down in Buckhead. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, "What the heck? I like kids. I have four of my own." And I said, I'll check it out. And so that was my on ramp, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I had decided the on ramp for Kids to Leaders and getting the kids into the program is a summer camp. It's a 5 day, 5 night overnight camp out at Camp Twin Lakes in Rutledge, Georgia, that we
Mm-hmm.
rent their space for a couple weeks every year. I decided I was going to go to camp. And I kind of chickened out, if I'm being honest. The first year, I was a little intimidated. And so I was a bus chaperone the very first year. And so I went to the church where all the kids came in and were dropped off by their parents and their guardians. And right away, it kind of hit me because you could kind of tell that, the kids and the families we are serving, it's a subset of poverty. We're trying to break the cycle of generational incarceration. We've
Mm-hmm.
been around over 25 years now in Atlanta. And we've been highly successful, but thanks to people like you, Pete, people they've not heard of us before. And typically when they hear about us and our results, they're like, wow, I want to be a part of that. So the brunch for me got me started. I heard the results, like I want to be a part of that. Went out to camp as a chaperone. I played some rock, paper, scissors on the bus ride out. And then what really got me is when the kids were getting off the bus and they'd see their counselors from the year before, and they were high-fiving and bro hugging and
Ooh.
everything you do when you haven't seen someone for a long time. When I saw that, I said, I want to be a part of that. And I've been a cabin dad ever since.
Ooh. So I love it because I get a chance to talk to a lot of our nonprofit community, and each story really connects with the heart of what they're doing because thriving nonprofits impact communities.
Hmm.
And the one of the things we chatted very briefly a couple hours ago is there's a lot of noise out there. So trying to get through the noise and connect with the people that really feel aligned with what you're doing. So is real important. But let's go back to the cabin dad. So you the next year you become a cabin dad. So what was that experience like?
So typically, most of the years, we have two camps. We have what we call the Cornerstone Camp, which is the youngest kids. They come in when they're about 8 years old. A lot of them have never been away from camp before or never away from home.
Hmm.
Um, some might have, behavioral issues, bedwetting, what have you, but it's their first experience at camp. And then there's the leadership camp, which is the older kids, the teenagers, the experienced ones, right? And our program is a 10-year continuum. So when the kids come in, they are part of our programming for 10 years.
Ooh.
But the camp is really our, again, that was the entree. We have other programs now, like an internship program and mentoring, et cetera. But the camp is really the, that's the foundation. So I usually did the 8-year-olds, a cabin dad for 8-year-olds. I have about 6 or 7 in the cabin. It's an air-conditioned cabin with a bed, so it's, you're not roughing it. But a lot of these kids are, I have kids of my own, and so they're no different than any other kid, to be honest. They just maybe hadn't been away from home before.
Hmm.
So I just liked being around those, third grade, fourth grade boys because they got my sense of humor. I could be a little goofy, just ask my wife. And my goal was, I jokingly say, I wanted to start the week with 6 campers and I wanted to end the week with 6 campers. Like no one went home, no one got in trouble, and they wanted to come back the next year. That was the low bar. Just come back, have a great time. Any kid would love this camp. So that's where I got started. Lots of stories I can tell about, just things you can't make up. You got to be at camp to see them, but hilarious things that I've seen, heart-touching things that I've seen. This past year, for the first time, I had all the oldest boys. So we have an intern program that I mentioned. I had all of the boys in our internship program in my cabin. These are the creme de la creme, right? They've been through the program. They've gone out and worked for a local employer for a couple weeks in the summertime, gotten paid. They've put on business clothes and learned how to shake hands and look you in the eye and all these kinds of things. That's who I had in my cabin. And it was a treat, let me tell you. These guys, you can learn a lot from these kids, even the 8-year-olds. That was one of my biggest surprises is I was kind of puffed up first year I went out thinking, oh, I'm going to be the cabin dad and teach these kids. They were teaching me things. And I don't just mean, you know, whatever it might be on how to shoot a bow and arrow or, get in a canoe, something like that. But they were
Hmm.
teaching me things biblically as well. And I was shocked at how well many of these kids knew the Bible, that someone had taught them. So, set aside your stereotypes when you hear about who our demographic is, because these kids are really impressive.
Hmm. I do a program over at Kennesaw Mountain High School, and we are with them from freshman to senior. And I'm a big proponent of transformation. It doesn't happen in a week.
Right.
So, who came up? I love the 10-year like
Mhm.
time frame that you're with the program. What was that? What's that like? What could you share with our community of that aspect of the kids to leaders?
Sure. So before I answer that question, let me just comment on the 10-year and that when they come in at that age, uh, statistically, we've captured statistics on our own from the alumni.
Hmm.
99% are living incarceration free. They're not impacted by the judicial system.
Hmm.
That is an amazing statistic, let me tell you,
Yes.
because these kids are 3 times more likely to be impacted by the judicial system because they have an incarcerated parent. So something we're doing is working. I would also say that's a pretty low bar. 84% are not dependent on government subsidies, and 82% are getting some sort of post-secondary education, or they're in the military, whatever that looks like. So the program is working, but how it got started is a pastor from a church in East Cobb.
Hmm.
She was doing a prison visit, and she happened upon a women's prison. I think it was the first day of her visit, and the lady that she met with happened to say, "Well, where are you going tomorrow?" She said, "Well, I'm going to a different women's prison." She said, "Well, when you go, say hello to my daughter for me, if you would, if you ran into her." So
Wow.
she went to this other prison. God intervened. This woman, her daughter, she met her at this prison. That's not a coincidence, right? That happened for a reason.
Sure.
Well, she got to meet this young lady, and the lady said, "Well, it happened. Where are you going tomorrow?" She goes, "Well, I'm going to this other prison." She goes, "Well, if you could say hello to my daughter if you happen to run into her." 3 generations. And so Diane Parrish, who's our founder, it just like it hit her like a 2 by 4. Like, this isn't right. We've got to change this. And you mentioned trajectory. I mean, we are changing the trajectory of these kids' lives, and it has a
Mhm.
ripple effect because, there's tons of need. There's 200,000 kids in the state of Georgia that have an incarcerated parent. So if you just do the math, not every state has 200,000. That's about 5 million kids that go to bed every night
Mm.
with a parent incarcerated. That's where my heart is
Yeah,
these
that
kids did
that
not ask for this, right?
no, no, yeah. What do you see like? I want our community to kind of better. I'm a firm believer in like just what you did. You spent it was a 38 years with IBM.
Almost. Yep.
Okay, I have a friend. I went to my 50th high school reunion, and everybody's retiring, and it's like
You got
so.
knee replacements, hip
Yeah,
replacements.
oh
That's what you
yeah.
talk
It's
about.
like
Yeah.
everything being replaced. I mean, and so I'm talking to a good friend of mine, and so he had he was a CFO of a major company, and I said, "So what are you going to do? Because you can only play golf so many times,
Yep.
and another person in my Rotary read this book called Repack Your Bags, which
Hmm.
says like we do something completely different when we retire because we want to challenge our brain. And if you do something where you serve and you pour back into making an impact and a difference, it's like a double whammy of excitement and just just filling the heart. But he said to me, and I challenged him to go to my Rotary up there because he said, well, I heard that if you wait too long, you can't get any consulting gigs, And so,
Yeah, you can't be in sales. Yeah.
yeah, it's like it was like, yeah, I didn't want them to forget about me, and so
Hmm.
he got a bunch of gigs. I mean, a bunch, and he was like, "Man, I thought I retired, because now I'm working harder." But I love the fact that you didn't just go on consulting, which you could have, and gotten gigs, and you stepped into a role of really one finding donors, finding volunteers, leading the charge of kids to leaders. So like when you were thinking of retiring, what was going through your mind? You're going to hang up a great career at IBM. What were you thinking about? What do I do? How
Hmm.
did you come to the conclusion to do what you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Gosh, where do I start? So I'm sitting in my home office right now and I'm looking at my whiteboard and I have a word on my whiteboard. Every year I pick a word that's going to be
Hmm.
kind of my North Star for the
Yeah.
year. And it just kind of fit. Like, so I put this on my board in December of last year. The word was impact. And
Hmm.
at the time, I did not know that my career at IBM was literally coming to an end, right? I knew there were some organizational changes, but I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger. Retirement can be scary, and where's your income going to come from?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, through a mutual friend, Dan, who you met, Dan Comator, who's our development director, he mentioned to me at Camp Hope the summer before that they were going to be staffing up a new position in development to work with individuals because we'd never done that before. We never did stewardship, nothing with individuals that because he didn't have the bandwidth, right? He's got corporations and churches and so forth to call on. And I said, wow, that kind of sounds interesting, but I'm not sure I'm ready to pull the trigger. Let's talk about it later. And I thought of somebody at the time who I thought would be perfect. So it took us a while to get on the calendar, but we eventually had a lunch in December with that individual. And as I'm sitting there and Dan's describing the role, I'm going, hey, wait a minute. I think this is me. I think I can do that job. I was getting the God nudge, if you like that term.
Yeah,
So
I do.
yeah, we separated ways. I went out in the parking lot with Dan. I said, hey, by the way, I think I want to throw my hat, throw my hat in the ring. And he said, well, we'd love to run you through the interview process, but you'd be great because your ramp time, you know Kids to Leaders. You've been working with us for 12 years as a volunteer. So went through the process, and I was able to land the plane at IBM, and it just worked out perfect. So side note, maybe TMI, but my first week or two on the job was much different than what I had expected. And
Uh-huh.
I'd been playing some golf, right? Play a lot of tennis, avid tennis player, and I was having to commute. You know, it's part time. I heard part time, but 4 days a week, that's a little more than part time and what I wanted in retirement. And I was
Yeah.
commuting about 40 minutes a day one way to the office.
Ooh.
And I came home and my wife said, David, this is not working. Our dog Chloe misses you. I miss you. It's not working for us. And I said, well, that's not who I can't just go in and quit. So Dan was on vacation. He got back. I said, hey, we got to talk. I said, I'm this close to quitting. It's not for me. And he goes, whoa, 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 what needs to change? I said, well, I don't like coming into the office 4 days a week, and I don't like wearing pants. So he said, then don't. So, and frankly, with my job, I shouldn't be in the office that much. I mean, it's
Yeah.
good to collaborate, and we have a really great team of just can't say enough about the team in the office.
Mm.
But if I'm doing my job right, I'm out with individuals, having
Yep.
a coffee,
Yep.
lunch, whatever that looks like. It's what I did at IBM, right? This is sales, but it's just
Yep.
for an eternal impact, if you will.
Yes.
So thankfully, Dan is flexible, and we're working it out, and I'm loving it now.
Yeah. That as you're describing that, my brother was a pharmaceutical recruiter for his most of his career. And as things were winding down, he's 70 right now. He he stepped in because he was on the board of a private Christian school up in Rock Hill, and he served, in the kids, just being involved in developing kids.
Hmm.
And as he was stepping into like winding down his regular career, he decided they wanted him to step up and go into a development role. And I'm telling you what, he loves it. He loves getting, using the skills that we grow up with in business, but
Hmm.
using them for more impact.
Right,
And I think
right.
that word impact says it all because, yes, a career at IBM or my brother's case, pharmaceutical recruiting is, he has 5 kids. So, you're providing for the family, but
Yeah.
now you're impacting for generations.
Hmm.
So, our community is a wonderful giving community. So, kind of share with us, what do you need? Like, what are you looking for now? Donors, volunteers, and kind of describe what people out there can see to help support you.
Sure. No, thank you for allowing me to answer that question. So, as I mentioned, extremely successful, but people really haven't heard about us. But we are continuing to grow. We had 100 new campers come
Hmm.
to our first week of camp this past summer, and with the retention we expect, the numbers are going to continue to grow. So we have year-round programming, including just what you think of as like social services. We have a youth leader who goes out and meets these kids after school and has just Bible studies with them, or meets them at Chick-fil-A, and they do, just have a little connection circle. So this
Hmm.
is year-round programming. It costs us roughly $8,000 to support every camper for a
Hmm.
year. None of the kids and families pay a dime to be a part of Kids to Leaders. So we are 100% dependent on our donors, whether it's a church partner, an individual, a corporation slash foundation. We have no government funding whatsoever. So I say all that because we are now expanding to next year, we're going to have a third week of camp.
Hmm.
And we've already got a site selected. And coincidentally, it's going to be over in Alabama because we are expanding to Birmingham. So
Hmm.
we work with Prison Ministries, and they helped us select another site to replicate our model here in Atlanta. And one of the 5 cities in the South that we chose, the closest one happened to be Birmingham. So we expect by 2027 to have an executive director and a fully operational team working out of Birmingham serving kids in the Birmingham area while we're continuing to grow here in Atlanta. So that's very exciting, but of course that takes volunteers and it
Mhm.
takes donors to support us. Um, so I say all that we are in the season of giving. We've got the Day of Giving in Georgia, and I think across the country is December the 2nd. Um, we've already started some outreach along those lines through LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, what have you. And so we could use support there if
Mhm.
someone's looking to maybe make their year-end contributions.
Mhm.
If you've turned 73, RMDs and QCDs, all those acronyms, uh, we are certainly more than happy as a nonprofit to accept those charitable contributions as well.
Mhm.
And again, part of my role too is a lot of people's wealth is tied up in non-cash assets. So donor advised funds, we are getting more and more donors that are going that route,
Mhm.
and stocks, et cetera, even crypto. My office manager, she's going to cringe if she ever listens to this because um, there are some, people of, I'll say, maybe in their 30s and 40s that have invested in crypto and they're looking for a place to maybe offload some of that.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that's another angle for us. So talked a lot about money, but volunteers, we have almost a one-to-one ratio counselor to camper at camp. So we had over 300 campers this year. That means we had over 300 volunteers as
Hmm.
well. And so a lot of churches provide volunteers to us, or just people that hear about us, like you mentioned, Alan, who came out on a whim, came out on a flyer, and he loved it. He couldn't believe these kids and how much of an impact he could have himself on these kids in his cabin because he was a cabin dad, and I saw him do it.
Yeah. I always like to talk to people about an experience, whatever they're doing. And we go over to the extension and we serve, a meal once a month. And,
Hmm.
you get a chance to just interact with guys. And there's times that people need a second chance. There's times that people need the environment, the 10 years that they're around people on a regular basis. Because as a high performance coach, your environment is so critical
Yeah, we're
to,
very unique along those lines, Pete, right? I mean, a lot of
yeah,
people send a kid to camp, but then they put them back in the environment.
yeah.
And so that's why we build relationships with these kids over
Hmm.
10 years. And it's fun to see them grow up from a little 8-year-old to now, they're taller than me. And I always
Yeah.
give the kids a nickname. So one guy, I called him Big Cheese because he always went to the cooler every time we passed the cafeteria to get string cheese. We never
Yeah.
say no to food. Well, now he's really big. And so we had a laugh when I saw him at camp and called him Big Cheese.
Baked cheese. I like that. Yeah, there was. I think it was when Dan came to visit. They were talking about, this was like 30 years ago, about something, and I don't remember the details, but I remember the impact that person who somebody reached out and helped them when they were, needed help, and
Hmm.
they went on to like MBA, serving, I mean, doing some amazing things because somebody cared. Somebody reached out. Somebody put time and effort into changing that trajectory of that
Right.
person. And that person went on to do some amazing things. So the ripple effect that you can have is amazing. So I'll share with our church because we're just up the street at Grace Church, which is town center. And we actually, there's a gentleman, he teaches young kids just
Hmm.
that outdoors, a lot of, I remember this was at McKenna Farms. This was a year ago. And I was watching this little boy. He probably couldn't have been more than maybe 6 years old. And he had a chicken and he had a smile from ear to ear. Is probably the first time he ever held a chicken. And
Yep.
he was running around with it. And it was just absolutely the most precious thing to see
Yeah.
how people that may not get connected to those kind of things. They go to a camp, they just see nature, they see the
Hmm.
environment, and they get so excited about seeing another side to life.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so tell me more about the camps. So are they in the middle of the summer, and then you're running 300 at each week's camp?
No, it was
300 volunteers.
combined. It wasn't split down the
Oh,
middle, but we typically have more younger kids come to the
yeah.
Cornerstone camp. And it's just, again, it's a traditional kids camp. There's horseback riding, canoeing, you name
Mhm,
it. It's just a fun camp. And then we build in some other activities around it where we teach the gospel during the week with some worship. There's a live band that comes out, and
mhm,
there's singing and dancing. Um, it's just a great time. And I just mentioned a quick story that they have a farm at
mhm,
Twin Lakes, and so the salad bar is actually fantastic in the cafeteria. I mean, there's a line
mhm,
to get into the salad bar because it's all fresh. But
mhm,
sometimes they have the kids go back and they get to pick things and then taste it. And one year they had a couple cabins together and they went out and they picked like a pepper, I think, or a
mhm.
radish, and they tasted it. You should have seen the kids' faces because they didn't, after they washed it and they ate it, like, oh my gosh, like they never tasted anything like that
Yeah,
before. So that's the
yeah.
outdoors. The older camp, the leadership camp, we do teach leadership skills. So
Mm,
there's still the camp activities. They get to choose a little bit more, be a little more selective on what they want to do. Like there's a ropes course that we got to do. First time in 12 years I ever got to do it, where we
mhm,
had these teenage boys that some of them maybe had not been outside a lot, maybe playing some video games, but some that were football players, just big guys, had to get up on this ropes course really high up and, scared of heights, not so
mhm,
big and brave anymore. And then you had to do a zip line down. It was fantastic. But we
mm,
have other activities like a lip sync contest. We put bikes together and donated them to the camp 2 years
mm,
ago. A box showed up and you had to get all the parts out and put a bike together.
mm.
So, and it's interesting to see the boys interact. Someone has to step up, read the
Yes.
instructions, and say, okay, here's what we're going to do first. And it's interesting, like we step back as the cabin dad and let them go, right? You can't
Mhm.
you can't be the helicopter dad. So
Yes.
I really enjoy the leadership so much more now because you're really seeing them grow and transform and become leaders. And we even do service projects like building the bike. Last year we did blankets for kids with cancer in hospitals. Um,
Mhm.
it's just a lot of fun, and the lip sync competition to round it all off is a blast. So
Mm.
I'll have to show you that video of last year. We won the most creative.
Oh, really? Oh, man. I believe we're born to create, and today's society, the average person watches 4 hours of TV and scrolls up to 2 hours of TikTok videos and all this. And it's separated us from our roots to create. Like put that bike together, do the things that fill us up, that challenges us is to
Hmm.
create. And so it's so nice to see that that's happening
Yeah.
because it just fires up people when they start creating
We
something,
do a Shark
whatever.
Tank competition. We do a
Yeah.
cake boss. You should see some of these decorative cakes when they're done. Like they had 45 minutes to do this. They have a theme and they have to present about their cake and how they came up with
Ooh,
it. I mean, it is, I'm telling you, it is unbelievable what these kids can do.
that is good. Well, I have ADD and I'm a dyslexic, so the brain is always working. So I've got about 10 ideas after talking with you. Maybe stay a little bit afterwards.
Sure.
We'll talk off the air, but I want to I want to be respectful of your time. So what would be the best way to get a hold of you for people that either want to support you financially or volunteers that want to be involved with such a wonderful organization?
So the best way is go to our website, www.kidstoleaders.org, and it's kids with a
Ooh, I
Z.
misspelled that.
That's okay.
Okay.
We got kids with a Z and the number
Yeah.
two, so it's
Two.
kids to leaders.
Oh, it is number two?
It is number two.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
I got it right. Dang. Okay.
Dot
Okay.
org, though. It's not dot com, it's dot
.org.
org.
Okay. Let me change that because this will go out and I'm going to change that to .org. So we make sure that we get people that, okay. All right.
Let me just share one other thing too that this is such a
Yep.
blessing. So we have a Christmas party.
Oops.
We call it the Hope for Christmas party every year. It's a little later this year in December, and we are expecting, I don't want to get the number wrong, but I'm going to say roughly 1,000 people to come to our Hope for Christmas party this year.
Mm-hmm.
We asked for people to help with gifts, Christmas gifts for the kids, to see the joy
Mm-hmm.
on their faces. People have donated, companies have donated money. We give gift cards to the guardians slash families, to
Mm-hmm.
Kroger for food and gas. So that's what they get as a parting gift as well. Amazingly, and we needed about 250 volunteers for this event. We're sold out. We've capped out. It's not even Thanksgiving. We've capped out on volunteers. We've capped out on all of the Christmas gifts. They've already been claimed, and people are purchasing them, and they're bringing them into our office every day.
Wow.
So it's just a great story that God intervenes when you need help.
Yep.
We've pivoted, and people still want to help. So now volunteers are bringing food to our office for Thanksgiving. The office
Mm-hmm.
is full of pumpkin pies and canned goods, and it's amazing to see what's
Yeah.
going on here, the generosity. So, and we always need prayers.
Yes.
If you can't get to the office, if you can't get to the website, um, and look, I'll give you my phone number. Call me. I will put you in touch with, whatever your heart is kind of giving you the nudge right now. Like, I think I want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put you in touch with the volunteer team. If it's a donation, happy to talk to you more about that as well. So it's 678-923-2867. And of course, Pete's got my information if you misplaced that. So I would just love to talk to you more about what we're doing and the impact we're having.
Yeah, let's go with that number one more time. So
Sure. A little slower.
four,
678
678. Okay.
923
923. Okay. 28.
2867.
Okay. There we go. So reach
Perfect.
out to David at 678-923-2867 or kids to the number leaders.org. So David, I appreciate your time. Tell our viewers, what is the one thing that you would want them to take home from our podcast today?
Know that we are changing the trajectory of kids' lives. Here in Atlanta, we're being called to go elsewhere. So Birmingham is next. Hopefully we're successful and we can even expand from there. But just know that we are definitely changing the trajectory. If you're a taxpayer, that's about $30,000 a year for every person that we keep out of a Georgia prison.
Mm-hmm.
But the ripple effect, like you said, these kids are becoming leaders and productive citizens. They're going to have families, they're going to have jobs, and it's just going to continue to expand. So we are trying to change the next generation, right? We're trying to break this cycle of incarceration, and we can only do it one kid at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need your help and your prayers to make that happen.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for the impact you're making. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing with our community what Kids to Leaders is about and how they're making an impact in the world that we live. Thank